Hi, and welcome to the Blue Screen Brothers. Today I have my brother Alex with me. Hello, Alex.
Hi, long time no
Uh,
see.
yeah. Do you like to save money?
Let me guess. Yes, I do.
You do. Okay, I
Yeah.
rather like to spend money, but somebody like to save money, so
This is something that reminds me about shopping. If you get 30% discount, have you saved money or have you
well,
spent money?
you have spent 70% of the money you could have saved.
Yes.
Yeah. So, but I'm actually thinking about. I did a session on the Norwegian MVP days called "Money for Nothing" and the microchips for free.
The microchips. That's nice.
Microchips for free, yeah. So, and there we talked about how you can save money on your Azure resources. And lately, I did a small cleanup by just finding some unnecessary disks in an Azure subscription. And I actually discovered uh, for a year, I guess it would be about between 20 and 30,000 a year dollars. So that's quite a big amount.
So what you're saying is that disk is not cheap?
Disk is not cheap. It could be cheap, but it depends on so many different factors. So it's not the biggest expenses you most likely have, but I find remainings of disks from SQL servers with a lot of disk, and they had done a backup and a restore, and then had a copy of the file. So I actually find 3 sets of files to a huge SQL server costing a lot of money, together with a couple of smaller disks and so on. So I actually sat down and figure out how can we discover all our unattached managed disk, because a disk that you are using are called a managed disks, and if it's unattached, it will most likely not be in use and should be deleted. There are one exception actually, because we are using Kubernetes, and in Kubernetes you often have disk that you are using for provisioning and other kind of stuff. So you may have unmanaged disks. And that's why I stopped using some of the sample scripts I'm going to show you, because many of the scripts I found out there was script that actually found the disks and deleted them for you. And
Hmm.
that's not so smart if they are the basic of something you deploy. So I have done some scripts I'm going to show you, and I've done some manual ways of searching for information. So just let's start by sharing my view of some VMs. Just give me a second here and find the right window. It should be this one. Do you see my screen now, Alexander?
Yes, I do. I see some MVP and some restored servers.
Yeah, and I have done this just so we can see the effect of what we are doing in day to day if we are not careful about different things. So we can see I have a resource group called virtual machines, and I have 2 VMs running in it in that particular place. And the first thing many people have discovered is if you go in and find a machine, you can see it have several resources connected like disks. So we can see there are 2 disks, 2 data disks, and 1 OS disk connected to this one. And if I go over on the overview again and just push delete, and then you have this selection. I can delete the machine, and it's easy just to select here and push delete, but you can see that nothing of the disk will be deleted if you don't delete with the VM. And
So by default, you delete the
the
computer.
default, you will actually on the default now on newer VMs, you will actually have the OS disk selected, but not the data disk. So this is the default you would have seen when you're trying to delete a VM. So it will save the data disk. On older VMs, it will also be nothing get deleted, and you have the network interfaces. And this time we don't have IP connected to it, but I have seen a lot of public IPs laying without owners or attached to anything, so that could actually be a security danger. But as default, this will be the setup. And if you just push delete, you will actually remain a copy of the disk in your resource groups. So we are now deleting the virtual machine. Again, I have restarted once already today, but I'm deleting it. And that's the next thing with unnecessary disk space, because if it said that you have a retention time for the backup of a VM you had deleted, and you have a retention time for 5 years, maybe you have a lot of disk space going for the backup as well. In the same scenario I told you about the SQL server, it was also a place to save money.
We've always been talking about virtualization of saving space instead of having multiple PCs, but it sometimes makes it harder to understand what you actually have there.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So, let's see the view we have here. If we go in and group by type, we will actually see I have a lot of disks. It's only 2 VMs, but there is a lot or just one now because we have deleted one. And we have a lot of disks. And if we go into one of the disks, for instance, the dev server one, the data disk, we can see that the disk is unattached. So we have the state of unattached disks, and we have a lot of them. We will see the list down here because it's actually just 1 or 2 of the disks. I think this is the only used in the VM, and it's pretty hard to go in this way, figure out what disks are actually being used. It's only one disk and go in and delete it. So this is a heavy way of discovering disks that you need to get rid of. So I would actually just do it a different way if I'm going to use the portal as the way in here. So let's see, we are going for disks. And then you can just go in portal, find disks, and here we will see all my disks. And you can add the filter. Let's see if I remember it the right way now. Storage disk state equals unattached, like that. And we can see I have a lot of unattached disks that could be deleted. So, but still,
potentially
this
could be deleted.
Potentially could be deleted. So this for me, this is not enough information, and this could be spread all over my subscription. So different subscription, different disk, and it will be visible in here. But I want more information. So I find one of Microsoft learning modules that have a documentation with find and delete unattached, managed and unmanaged disks. So we can try it out here with PowerShell's commands and everything like that, and that's pretty neat. But like I told you, it's not sure that you want to delete it. So if you want to use this way of setting up, you should actually add a yes, no, or something like that, so you can be sure that you're deleting the right files.
Yes, no, and maybe that should be a nice button.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah, maybe. Yeah. Save for later. Ask me again or something like that. So I did a open version of this file. So I have shared it in my script for sharing in my GitHub. So I'm just going to change the view of what I'm sharing here so we can see the script itself. Let's start by sharing out my, let's see, my Visual Studio Code. So this is just an example of my script. We can see I'm getting all the subscription if I have more. In this case, I'm just have one subscription, and I would have liked to exclude some different subscription from the subscription list. So just by running this, I will get an overview. There is a lot of different subscription that I'm connected with, or tenants I'm connected with, that we are not going to use now. So I can get my list showing me that I have only one subscription active. And I will create a table like this.
Do we find this script anywhere, by the way?
Yes, it was in my GitHub that I showed you just seconds ago. So
Yeah.
it's a script for sharing, and in the Azure folder and under VMs you will find it.
Yeah.
So now I have actually gone through all the disks. It's pretty fast because it's not that many disks and big subscription, but I have found some of them. And I also want to export them into a file to make it easier to work with them. So then we have the export of the table. So let's go there, and I will have an Excel file. So I'm going to open the file and share Excel with you. So this is the list I got exported. And I have selected things like time created, resource group name, disk name, and subscription, because that will give me an overview. I also added the OS type, because if it has an OS type like Windows or Linux, it's actually running something. So now I can actually see that this is a lot of disk that I would like to delete. So then I can run the script with an input from the files I want to delete, or I can just do it in the portal by deleting it. So this is an easy way. I like, usually when I have a lot of disk, it's easier to create it as a table. Oh, that was not right. Let's see, we need everything in here like that. Create it like a table, because then I could select one subscription at the time if I have multiple subscription or one resource group or whatever you want to do. So still Excel is a nice tool to use sometimes, at least.
Yes, and since this is a CSV file, you could potentially use PowerShell to grab the values from the CSV files if you would like to import
so
it.
you can actually just delete the ones you want to keep and result with a CSV file that you can actually input into a script that deletes the file you want to get rid of. So, and I'm pretty sure that most companies that have been in Azure for a while will actually sit there with a lot of different files that they should delete. I found a lot of them. Like I told you, it's between $20,000 and $30,000 saved a year by just deleting unnecessary files.
So, did you get a new car for doing this?
Yeah, I should have. Yeah,
Yeah, you should have.
Yeah.
And the most interesting thing is that the thing I learned the most of this tutorial is probably two things. One is that I need to visit your GitHub more often.
Yeah, I'm not good at writing scripts, but I find parts that I need and adjust them, and then get help from some of my colleagues like Gunnar and Marius, our blue screen brother partner. So I get help to make them doable, and basically I try to keep them simple, so it's easier to create more extended versions if you would like them, because the basic script I have now I can actually extend with the delete function if I want to delete it. So it's possible to extend it. So it's better to have small example that you can expand if you need them.
Oh, that's smart. And the second thing is that we are now talking about legacy and obsolete cloud resources.
Yeah.
We've for a long time we've been talking about legacy and obsolete and things we need to do with and technical depth, and it's always been that physical server, that 2008 server, or maybe a VM that needs to be done with something. And now we have so many cloud resources, but the biggest difference is that if you purchase a server, it doesn't cost you anything more.
Yeah.
But the cloud resources still do.
They still do, yeah, and that's why I think that people are still thinking about legacy when they are doing stuff like for instance all the VHD files that we found now. Then because in the old world, this would actually be a problem when the disks are too full. So then you start to figure out what can we delete, and you would have deleted the file when necessary. But it doesn't cost you anything more to have unused files. And still in Azure, storage is pretty cheap. But when you are getting terabytes and terabytes and terabytes, it starts to cost you a lot of money, and you have the backup. And you also have the security aspect, because if somebody have find that you have unmounted disk, they can actually put a lot of stuff in those unmounted disk and use them for something else. For instance, connect them when they are going to try to do an exploit of something. So they can connect their tools when they need and disconnect them afterwards. So you should actually don't have them. And going back to the example with IP addresses, I have seen that companies can have public IP addresses laying around that have been open previously in the firewall to the company. So if somebody connect that IP address on a new server, there will be an open gateway into that machine. So,
and even worse, they might steal it without you knowing it, because you don't monitor, you don't understand, you don't connect it, you don't do anything with it. It's just gone.
It's just the dead resources, and you don't know, you don't get alerts when dead resources appear. But something you actually forgot to show. I'm going to go in and show you my script. Let's see here. It was in here. Just going to show you something new, pretty new, because I haven't seen it for a while, and it's still deep hidden. Because if you go into the advisor, you can see that you have different advisors. Now this is a small subscription, so I don't have many advisors, but if you see on cost, it's actually say that I have a score on 100% on the cost part. Yeah, so I'm a good money saver, right?
I'm not sure if you're a good,
but that's actually related to that. I have used the RDP ports open for my test environments. So
this is something that I feel represent a lot of companies. They are very cost focused, but not so much on security.
Yeah. So. But let's see one of the cost recommendation. If you are 100%, you shouldn't have any medium impact, according to me, at least not if you don't have resources at all. So it's actually shown me that a cost medium advisor is to actually delete the VMs that haven't been attached for more than 30 days. So in the advisor, this have appeared in the past year or something like that. But we can get them up here, and we can actually delete them from here as well. But you can still see this is the 3 first copies of the disk, not the ones I've deleted today or yesterday. So it need to be unattached for 30 days before it will appear in here. So we can postpone, we can dismiss or do something with it, but we cannot delete it from here. Then we need to go in one of the ways we have shown you, or by going in this way. So the advisor will actually show you that you have this problem, but it's not that good by managing them. So the script way and script for sharing is actually an easier way to get the information, and you can adjust the object to contain more information if you want to more information here. So that's my tips for saving some money.
It was a lot of nice tips, and saving more money and time and frustration. Your GitHub.
Yeah, and clean it up, because that's the way of security and cost management. It's actually don't have shit in there, because that will hide the cost. It will hide security threats and so on. So as little as possible, what you should have what you need there, but it shouldn't be unused resources, because then it will hide something that could potentially use money or be a security risk.
I like that. Less is more. That's something we're going to use.
Yes. So hopefully we will have something more to talk about soon.
Yes, definitely. This was nice.
See you around, Alex.
See you around. Bye.